Boom. Hello, everybody. Guess what? It is Memorial Day weekend, and we are here up in the Pacific Northwest having a blast. What I love about the Pacific Northwest and probably a lot of places around the country is I was out on the boat today, but guess where I was at yesterday? Yesterday, I was up on the mountain snowmobiling. I was up on Mount Baker, up there with some friends, having a great time up in the snow playing on Saturday. And then immediately on Sunday, turned around and was out on the boat, 70 degrees out, beautiful weather, and getting a sunburn in both places. That's the best part. So, welcome to the Pacific Northwest. Welcome to snowmobiling. Welcome to Live Large. Thank you guys for coming in. So, as you're coming in, don't forget, you guys know the routine. Drop your comments in the comments about where you're from. Tell us where you live, where you're at, what you did this weekend. Tell me what you did this weekend in Memorial Day weekend. But mostly, I want to know where you're watching from. Are you watching from Maine? Are you watching from New York? Are you watching from Washington? Are you watching from Tahoe? Are you in Alaska? Are you up in British Columbia? Mike Morrison, I know where you're at. You're up in British Columbia. Bill is in Washington. Drop it in the comments, guys. Let's get this show shared out. Let's get this thing going on. Tomorrow, Michael Grant, I think I'm going to try mountain biking. I thought about that. I'm like, okay, snowmobile one day, boating the next, mountain biking the third day. Why not? It's supposed to be rainy and dirty and muddy here. Sounds like a great time to me. All right, we got Monty watching. Where you at? You're in Hudson, Wisconsin today, Monty. I know you're from North Dakota. You're out there as well. Michael's going to go motorcycling tomorrow. All right, guys, come on in. You guys know what this show's about. It's John Ferrian Live. We come to you every Sunday night. Guess what we're doing? We're talking snowmobiling. We're talking education. We're talking safety. We're talking about growing the sport in a positive way. We are here for you guys. I hope you guys enjoy these episodes as much as I enjoy putting them on. All of these incredible guests we continue to bring on are just amazing. And tonight especially, I am stoked for bringing Vickie on from AIARE. It's been a great discussion, a great last few weeks I've had engaging with her about the new program we're going to have. Bill Yeager's going rafting this weekend over the Wenatchee River. Awesome. We got Brian here from Bonnie Lake. We got Michael in Michigan. Drop it in, guys. If you're watching, let me know where you're watching from. Appreciate you coming in. Let's get this transitioned over and talk a little bit about Woody's Racing Share and Win. You guys know it. We got prizes, so we're giving away some two-stroke oil and some hand wipes. Those hand wipes are pretty sweet. I've gotten some reports from folks who've won those before that they work great for wiping that exhaust smudge off the side of your machine, cleaning your machine up. Great, great products. And just by sharing the show, you can win. All right, guys, we've got shows you can share out to the Facebook pages of your personal pages. That's the thing, people, is like just sometimes one share to your own personal page is all it takes. And somebody who is like, what is, what's Bill up to? What's Brian up to? Why is he sharing this? Why is it important to him? And you can do that when you share it out. Go ahead and let them know where you're sharing it out to. But I want to tell you guys too is one real quick thing that happened to me this last week is super excited was the Northwest Avalanche Center. As you guys know, I've been on that board of directors for the last 4 years, and this will be, I think, fourth, going into my 5th year next year. And just last week, the board brought me on as the new vice president going into next year. Super stoked for that. Love the Avalanche Center here in the Northwest and continue to serve them the way I have over the last few years and now expanding that role as well. So appreciate you guys jumping in. Again, make sure you're sharing this out to some of those club pages and some of those pages like 2.0, Sled Addicts, all of those great places. So we're going to bring Vickie on here in just a second. So let's go ahead and drop the cover here. So we got 3, 2, and 1. All right. Oop. That's not the one I wanted. Vickie, where are you at? There you are. There you are. How's it going, Vickie?
I'm here, I promise.
I know,
good.
you've been here the whole time, hearing me talking about all the cool things that's going on in the Pacific Northwest, right?
Yeah, congrats on your new position with the Abbey Center. That's so awesome.
Yeah, it's been exciting, right? It's one of those things too where as a snowmobiler joining the Avalanche Center, and I'm sure this is the way across most of the country is Abbey centers and organizations like AIARE have really, their origins are backcountry skiing, right? Like that's where the origins are from. And so to come into the Avalanche Center and to be able to try and help make a difference in the motorized community that I've been able to do so far, and then now to be able to, be voted in by my fellow board members as the vice president, to me that means that there's a mindset shift and a mindset change that's happening
Absolutely.
in this community. And when I mean this community, I mean the backcountry community as a whole. These communities are coming together, they're embracing each other, they're supporting each other, which is exactly what we're going to talk about tonight.
That's for
Awesome.
sure. And I see the same thing, and your voice is super valuable and really important. So I'm glad that NWAC saw that and has elevated your voice even further. So that's great.
That's awesome. Awesome. So, Vickie, you and I were introduced by a mutual friend of ours named Liz. So, Liz is a fellow board member of mine on the Northwest Avalanche Center here. We're on the diversity committee together. Her and I work together on that, and then just general board stuff as well. And, Liz is an amazing person. I consider her a friend at this point in time. And I knew she worked for AIARE, and she's, remind me, it's the title is the Director of Recreational Programming, is Liz's title.
That's right.
And I don't remember exactly how it was, but I was like, I just called Liz one day and like, hey Liz, I got this idea. What do you think? You think AIARE would be interested? And it was kind of just a seed of an idea here, maybe about a month ago. I don't even remember if it was
Mm-hmm.
3, 4 weeks ago. And things were coming together, and so Liz was like, well, I think it's got some legs. Let me introduce you to Vickie, and we'll put you in touch, and like I'll pitch it to her, see what she thinks. And what I love was that the email I got back from Liz was like, John, I didn't even get to finish telling her about it, and she says, I'm in.
Yeah, I was literally saying yes, 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 like jumping up and down, because what I love and what we need, what this community needs, are people like you who are from the motorized community coming to us saying, let's come together and
Yeah,
form a partnership that benefits both entities. And I think coming at this from a grassroots perspective and
yeah,
getting to reach people that are really only uniquely reached through you and your platform and your many platforms
yep,
is super important. So that's one of the reasons I was so excited. But we're just gaining momentum every year for our motorized programming, and so this is just more fuel to that fire. So I'm really excited about our partnership. Can't wait to tell
yeah.
everybody about it in a little
I
bit.
know, like we're gonna get through all of those details tonight. I'm super excited too. Like, and I can't even tell you, like, I just like I'm tingling like with excitement of this whole topic of what's going on. And I just want to jump right in, but I'm gonna hold myself back a little bit here too. So first thing I want to
Sure.
do, Vickie, is I want to let people get to know you a little bit. So why don't you give us a little bit of your background? Like, how long have you been with AIARE? What's your role at AIARE? And maybe kind of what led you up to joining AIARE, because it wasn't that
Yeah,
long ago that you joined, right? So let's
that's right.
get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm AIARE's newest employee, actually. I'm
Oh
the
wow.
executive director, which means I oversee the entire staff and operations of AIARE. I've been there since last August, so little almost coming up on 10 months, coming up on my year anniversary, so that's really exciting. My background, I've been in nonprofits for over 20 years. Really started with outdoor education. I was an outward bound instructor out of the Pacific Northwest, actually,
Hmm.
in the Northern Cascades there. So I got my start in outdoor education too long ago, actually. Um, but I studied science in school, and I really decided that I wanted to pursue a career that would lead me outside.
Yeah.
And that kind of, in a few odd twists and turns, led me to working for nonprofits. And it started with nonprofits who were more doing environmental work, outdoor education. And I was, program directors for those folks. And I had a supervisor who just saw, something in me that said, actually, I think we should try your hand at fundraising. And so he kind of scooped me up, and I went down this path that a lot of people don't know about. It's called development, but it's really, fundraising and making sure that nonprofits survive,
Yeah.
usually through donations through individuals or corporate partners and things like that. So that's been my area of expertise, mostly overseeing, large programs, partnerships, fundraising, for the last 20 years. Most recently with the American Alpine Club, I worked for them for 8 years, doing some strategic partnership work. So, my passion is really sort of the crossroads of nonprofits and
Hmm.
outdoors. Um, and so, tandem to that, I've been an outdoor enthusiast my whole
Yeah.
life. I grew up in Colorado, went to school in Boulder, was introduced to rock climbing and backcountry skiing immediately, basically. And the group of individuals that I met were super cool and that they were incredible mentors, but they also had a real passion for traveling and recreating safely.
Mm-hmm.
And so, some of the first things that I did was take an AIARE course, and it was at the very beginning of the formation of AIARE, which is really cool. So I've known about AIARE for a long time, and I'm a student of AIARE. So when this opportunity came up, it really sort of just meshed everything in my worlds together. My passion for skiing and
Yeah.
education and nonprofits. And the position that AIARE's in right now, could really use somebody with my background to enhance partnerships like ours. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm at. And I love the staff. Like you said, you work with Liz, and I just have to say it's a small but mighty staff, and they continue to impress me every day. They are incredible people who are highly educated, highly professional, and super fun folks. So I'm honored to work with them.
Yeah. And knowing a little bit about Liz, and as I've gotten to know you, I can tell you that, when you have folks the caliber of all of you wanting to be part of an organization like AIARE, like to me, that's super meaningful. Like I work in a professional world where, there's all the chains of command, senior CEOs all the way down to, the hourly staff in the stores and everything in between at T-Mobile. And, people in many cases are very strategic about their future personally and their career path. And, I'm sure you've already kind of described it in your description, but if you had to give one or two things that were like, what drew you to AIARE specifically when you look at your personal future career path? Like, why the draw? So,
Yeah, for me, it was two things. One, it was a new opportunity to, I had been in senior leadership roles in organizations for the last 10, 12 years, but to be given an opportunity to be at the head and really steer the vision of the organization is incredibly exciting.
That's awesome.
But two, I just so much believe in the mission of the organization. It
Me too.
resonates with
Yeah.
me wholeheartedly. And, I go backcountry skiing as often as I can year round. And so it's something, avalanche education is with me every day.
Yeah.
So it just was such a cool opportunity. I don't feel
Yeah.
like our passions align all that often. So I
Yeah.
feel really lucky.
And that's what I found too, is like, my desire to partner with AIARE on this scholarship program that we're going to talk about tonight. And, the partnership that we have is like you and I started talking and we started comparing notes and like, what's on my mission statement and what's your mission statement. And like, literally, I think you could put them side by side. And like, other than a few words here and there that maybe I was saying snowmobile and you were saying, backcountry user, it was very much aligned. And like, I just felt so good. Like I didn't even hesitate. I looked at all of it. I laid it out. You looked at it and you're like, well, here's a couple of small things we need to adjust in our agreement that we have between, you and I for this program. But it was like almost spot on. Like we just had immediate alignment on our goals, and
Yeah, for sure.
it felt really good. So let's talk right away about, there's folks on this show watching that I'm sure by now they've shared, right? Everybody who's over here watching on the side, if you haven't shared this out already, guys, tonight's the night to do it. This is a big night. We're talking about AIARE. We're talking about Live Large University, the whole program. If you haven't already shared this out, now is the time to do it. And we're going to go now right into, if I'm a snowmobiler and I ride the backcountry, maybe I have AVI education, maybe I don't. Maybe I've had AVI education with AIARE, maybe I haven't. There's a lot of people out there, right, that are in the backcountry. What is AIARE? What kind of an organization is it? What's their mission statement? What's their goals? Let's start there.
Yeah, so AIARE is an acronym.
Okay.
So it actually stands for the American Institute for Avalanche Research and Education.
Okay.
And so we are an educational institution. What makes us unique is that we are a nonprofit organization, which means that, we put our mission before dollars and cents. And our mission is to save lives through avalanche education. AIARE was formed in 1998, which is incredible. It's 22 years ago.
Wow.
By a group of individuals who were skiers.
Okay.
They were backcountry skiers living in Crested Butte, which is where I'm coming to you all from today, actually.
Okay.
But they saw a problem in the community where, the sport was exploding then. A lot of people were discovering backcountry skiing, backcountry access, but there wasn't a standard in education. There wasn't a standard group of tools that were being given to people to go into the backcountry. And so the community saw fatalities and incidents increase, and this group wanted to do something about it. So they came together, this brain trust of incredible individuals led by Tom Murphy, our founder, and came up with an educational platform, a decision-making and avalanche terrain curriculum. And it's modular courses for recreationalists as well as professionals, to ensure that they have the tools, the checklists, the decision-making capabilities, and the understanding to travel safely in the backcountry. So in a nutshell, we provide education to recreationalists and professionals who want to travel in the backcountry.
Okay, that's awesome. And so you guys have got a pretty robust structure and class and network of educators across the backcountry community.
Yeah.
But fairly new into the motorized side of it, right? I mean, I think there's probably folks who are out there that were doing some motorized stuff that you guys were aware of, but
Yeah.
to really have a focus on it and to kind of pull together a program has only been since what, the 1819 winter, right? Is the
That's right.
first
It's
year?
been about 3 years.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
let's dive into that a little bit and talk
Sure.
about, first of all, why? Like, why did AIARE see a need to engage the snowmobile community, and why was it important? And then let's talk about what you guys have pulled together over the last 3 years and,
Yeah.
where we're at with it.
So I think to understand the why, you have to understand the structure a little bit of our organization. So AIARE doesn't teach classes ourselves. We have a small staff. We got 6 people on staff. We have 20 professional instructors. But rather what we do is we train instructors, and we certify providers to teach our courses. And so instead of having 6 people on staff teach as many students as they can every year, instead we leverage a network of 110 providers across the United States to reach over 11,000 students every year in the United States who are taking our courses.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of just having an individual being responsible for teaching what they can in the community, we really put the keys to the kingdom with individuals so that they can see what their individual community needs are and be responsive to that. And we hand them the toolkit, we train the instructors, we're constantly modifying our curriculum, making sure that we're meeting the standards that we've set, that the educational outcomes are being met through the courses. So yeah, basically, we see, if you look just at the numbers alone, like I said, we've got about 11,000 students going through our recreational courses. We've only got about 200 students going through our motorized courses.
Okay.
And when you look at the number of motorized users that are out there, it's enormous. I think last year alone, there was over 1.2 million registrations for motorized vehicles in the backcountry last year. So we know there's a ton of users out there, and we know there's a need for education because snowmobilers are the second highest rate of accidents of fatalities when they're caught in avalanches in the United States behind skiers. So we know there's a need for the education, but really what we are seeing is that the motorized community today is where the skiing community was about 20 years ago. It was really skiers that looked around and saw this problem and the growth in the popularity of the sport. And now what we're seeing is these incredible machines and access to machines that are really getting motorized users back into some incredible terrain, but it can also be really incredibly dangerous terrain. And in tandem with those machinery has not been the widespread dissemination of education. So that's what we hope to do, is to embrace the motorized community. The community has come to us and said there's a need for it, but your curriculum's not quite right for us. We skiers look at terrain from above. We skin somewhere and we're looking down onto something to see where we should drop into it. And snowmobilers are looking at it from the bottom. And so there's just some inherent differences. And so hearing those kinds of things from the community and the want for the community to get education, we've had a task force of professionals and educators come together with our professionals and educators and really tailor make our curriculum so that it speaks to the motorized audience. So we launched that about 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We've got 4 motorized providers across the United States, and we need more. Quite
Yeah.
frankly, that's just not enough to meet the growing market that's really out there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll just add a couple of personal comments and opinions. And so,
Right.
the thing that I've seen, Vickie, is that what you just outlined to me, the part that I love is that it's so consistent with what I have heard from other avalanche education professionals across the industry, irregardless of where they're working with and where they're working from, whether they're an AIARE provider, whether they're a AAA provider, which is, what is it, American Avalanche Association?
Association.
Yep, yep.
Mhm.
And so, there's different parts of that too. And I think that's something we should touch on tonight too, if you want to add that to your notes quick, is let's talk about the relationship between AIARE and the AAA in a little bit here when we get back to this.
Sure.
But what I'd love to do is just highlight that, this is a really consistent, viewpoint of our industry is like, if you look at back what, motorized recreation was, 20 years ago when the skiers were just figuring this out, is we didn't have machines and equipment that were capable of us getting us into the terrain that we're into now. And so it really has come to the forefront. It's become so popular. There's so many, social media has just expanded that because now people are seeing where they can go to and
Mhm.
go like, oh, I'm going to go to Rabbit Ears, Colorado. I want to go to Mount Baker, Washington. All British Columbia, everywhere. And so it's really getting people that hook, line, and sinker to come in and want to be part of this sport. And in most cases, I would say a motorized recreationalist is coming to this sport through that channel of being a motorized recreationalist. Maybe they're into ATVs, maybe they're into dirt bikes, whatever it is, but it's not super often. It's happening more and more now, I've noticed, is that they're not coming from an existing experienced backcountry ski community
Right.
into this thing where they already have this inherent knowledge and education. And so we're coming from somewhere, and if everybody understands and knows what the term ignorant is, it literally means we just don't know. So we're coming into this from an ignorant point of view of just not understanding the risk and the dangers that we're putting ourselves into. And I've told on previous shows my own story of how I got into backcountry riding from Minnesota, going out to Cook City, Montana once or twice a year, and like the first few rides in the first few years I had, like I was making really bad ignorant decisions because I just didn't know. And as
Yeah.
my eyes became open to this issue of avalanches and education and the safety of backcountry riding, I became a fast advocate and got involved wherever I could to help out dealerships schedule avalanche classes. And when I moved to the Pacific Northwest, got involved in the Washington State Snowmobile Association and clubs, and then eventually Northwest Avalanche Center, which has now led me in. All of these things are kind of a trickle effect of me continue to be passionate about this because it is such an important topic. And the interesting part is that now you are seeing some backcountry skiers using snowmobiles to access
Oh
for
yeah.
ski terrain. It's becoming more and more popular. And I don't know if anybody's let you in on a little secret, Vickie, but a lot of those folks, they start snowmobiling thinking they're going to be doing mostly skiing, and then eventually they start leaving their skis at home. Sometimes it's already happened a bunch of times.
I know. I know. Yeah. I mean, I think what you're saying is it rings true. And
Yeah,
let me be clear, there are ignorance no matter what your mode of travel is. I've
yeah,
stood at Vail Pass for some events this last summer
yep,
and talked to snowshoers and skiers and sledders.
yeah,
And, a lot of people assume, since they're in an established area like
yeah,
Vail Pass that sees a lot of traffic, that has a maintained road, that they're safe.
yeah,
And we heard people say that, oh no, we don't have safety equipment, but we're just staying on the road.
yeah, exactly.
And the Forest Service is there, who is in charge of monitoring that area, and says, well, actually, we've had many slides come across that road just earlier in the
Yeah,
year. And so I think our job, not just in the motorized community, but just in backcountry community, is trying to meet users where they're at.
yeah,
And so whether or not that's somebody who's flown to Colorado from Florida and they decide to rent a snowmobile and they don't get a safety talk, they don't get
yeah,
an avalanche talk, and they just get a map and they decide where to go. How can we meet those users where we are, and how can we provide the right tools to
yeah,
that dealer, or that individual, and what partnerships do we need to work on so that we meet that individual, along the way.
yeah,
And then people who are already in the backcountry, how can we get the education message across to them? Because what we don't want to have happen is that they have a near miss
Yeah.
or someone that they love is involved in avalanche, and that drives them to education.
Yeah.
So it's, we're trying to figure out that sort of communication strategy, that grassroots strategy to understand where users are coming from and how we can meet them where they are.
Yeah, yeah. So a comment just dropped in. There's a couple of different things that have dropped in here, but one specifically that jumps out at me is somebody I know and locally up here at the Northwest Glacier Cruisers. Tina says, yeah, Northwest Glacier Cruiser Snowmobile Club is trying to get the word out about, the Luke Rohde Memorial Scholarships that we've worked with AIARE to facilitate 7 motorized scholarships. So over this last year, they've done a ton of fundraisers. They've helped pay for, similar to what we're doing with our program. So yeah, so Tina and the whole team up there. I'm actually a member of that club as well too, and have financially supported that program. I think at one point I actually won one in one of their raffles, but I think we
Oh, cool.
redonated it back in to let everybody, because I'd just gone through a level
Yeah.
1 myself. But it was pretty cool. So I appreciate what the Glacier Cruisers are doing up there and what everybody's doing there. But um, what I love about AIARE is what you've just described, and what I hear is the word dynamic comes to mind, right? It's like you guys are, to your point, you're not coming from this from a point of view of from an elitist point of view where it's like, hey, we know better than everybody and we're just going to tell everybody what to do. Like that's the wrong way to do it, because nobody's going to listen, right? You guys are doing what you've said is you're finding these grassroots opportunities, whether it be at the snow parks or whether you're doing it through programs like what you and I are starting with, and you're meeting the users where they're at. And I love that.
Yeah.
That's a dynamic way of approaching the whole topic. And I think that's the way the long haul is. I think that's the way we'll all win together. So.
Yeah, I mean, AIARE has its roots in skiing. That's just a fact. And we are a group of professional educators and forecasters and patrollers. And we can write incredibly successful research-based curriculum, but we don't have a lot of snowmobilers.
Yeah.
And so we're not snowmobile experts. We've done what NWAC has done, and we've added some motorized users to our board. Shout out to Duncan Lee. And we've also created a task force where, really allowing the community to guide some of our decision making and to say, great, here's what it is from the skiing side. What rings true to you? What do we need to change? How is your communication different?
Yeah.
We're working together, and we're leaning on the motorized expertise, advising us, and then letting us, do what we do best.
Yeah.
And that's create the curriculum that's going to serve the community.
Yeah. And so when I think about, what your guys' structure and what you're doing is you're basically, setting the curriculums, you're helping train the educators, and you're trying to bring that into the sport. So a question that came to mind, and I'm not sure if I'm asking it the right way, but I think you'll know what I mean by it is, from an AIARE standpoint, when you're supporting the backcountry communities, what percentage of your time and effort and energy is spent on working with the pros versus working directly with the recreationalists? It's rec versus pros. Like if you had to give it a percentage or a ratio, is it 50-50? Is it 75-25, one way or the other? And then maybe a little of example of like how, and I think you've covered it, but I think I want to be kind of just dial in as like, how are you supporting the rec organization, the rec people, and how are you supporting the pro people, and how does that mix happen? So.
Yeah. There is a separation. There was this separation between professionals and recreationalists when it comes to avalanche education a handful of years ago. It used to be one continuum, and everybody kind of took a step back, like we continually do, to assess the learning outcomes. And it was really decided, listen, people really need to sort of be put into one of these two boxes. And if you're a recreationalist and you decide to become a professional, that's great. We have a separate track for you. But there's a whole series of things that professionals need to know about operations and things that recreationalists just don't need to know. So there was that split a few years ago. But really, the two remain tied together at AIARE. Like I said, we have a 6-person staff. We've got about 20 professional instructors who teach our pro and our trainer courses for us. But I would say maybe it's a third to 2/3, not quite half and half. The recreational side is certainly our bigger business.
Okay.
Because it's just like, it's such a smart business model with, being able to create these providers and we have new providers come online every year.
Awesome.
So, somebody in their community raises their hand and says, there's a need in my community.
Mhm.
I can do this. I'm going to hire some instructors. So we've got about 11,000 students that go through that every year.
Yeah.
Simultaneously, we have behind the scenes, we teach our pro courses. So that's 2 courses, a pro 1 and a pro 2. And that's a smaller number of students every year. Maybe around 150 students go through those courses. And those folks are folks who are going into the profession
Yeah.
of, the avalanche profession. So they're ski patrollers, they're guides, they're forecasters, they work for the Department of Transportation. They're really focused on public safety.
Yeah.
And so that's a 2-series course for professionals, folks who are already professionals or going into that industry. But sort of tied to that is our instructor training program. And this you need to go through if you want to become an AIARE instructor and teach recreational courses.
Yeah.
And so to qualify for those, you have to take a Pro 1 level course.
Yeah.
And so there's the tie, right? And so the programs, kind of feed one another.
Yeah.
But the bigger business surely is the recreational business, just because there's more recreationalists than there are professionals in the country.
Yeah, makes complete sense. And like, I love hearing you say this stuff out loud. It's a lot of stuff that I probably had made a lot of assumptions about. And hearing you kind of verbalize this out loud is really kind of helping me get my head wrapped around it. And I really hope it's helping everybody who's watching the show, tonight and in the future in the replays. So by the way, tonight, if you guys are watching the show live right now, feel free to drop in the comments, just, hashtag live. If you're watching this at a later date and you're coming in later, drop it in the comments. It's a hashtag replay, right? And again, don't forget to drop in where you're watching from so we know where you're at. I love kind of catering my content to the folks based on where they're riding. If they're up in British Columbia, if they're out in Maine and they're traveling out west for mountain riding, there's different things we do with different shows and stuff like that too. So thank you for doing that. Vickie, one thing I'm going to ask you another question that it's going to sound kind of a little bit like cocky, smart alecky, right? But I really want you. I know
Perfect.
you and I talked about it ahead of time, and I know you're prepared for it. Is why the heck as a snowmobiler should I give a crap about AIARE? Like, why do I care about AIARE?
Well, in terms of saving lives through avalanche education, we think AIARE is a great partner for the motorized community because we're not just empowering an individual to try and make a good decision for the community.
Yeah.
Our model has this flywheel effect. And so you do educate a single person, but they have the ability to come back and create something really important and really big for their community.
I love that.
We have
that's the soul at what I'm working at right there. I love that.
Yeah, we really believe in individuals, and you become an AIARE instructor. We've got about 456, I think, AIARE instructors this year, and we really work hard to support them. We have continuing education opportunities every year.
Yeah.
We support our providers in that way as well. I know this is such an interesting time for us, and we're trying to predict what's going to happen in the future. And what AIARE is doing right now is really buckling down and creating new resources to support our providers for next season so that they can provide education no matter what happens, be that virtually or, combination courses. So, you're really getting a lifelong investment when you partner with AIARE.
Awesome.
And you can count on us to continually evaluate and update and educate everybody that works for us. It's lifelong learning. And so it really is a way that folks can make an investment in themselves and in their community and give back to their communities.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely spot on. I love it. And so, what I want to do next now is talk a little bit. There's one question that popped up earlier, actually, I want to touch on before I jump over is, online learning, right? I think there's a lot of reasons. Like, I actually did a little survey recently just on my own social media, and I asked people, like, have you taken a level 1? Yes or no? And it was yes or no. And I think it was surprising to me, actually, that it was this high. And the people who are following me is, the people who took the time to answer the survey, 2/3 of them said no, 1/3 said yes. I actually didn't think it would even be that high, that it would be that yes,
Yeah,
because I know my experience in the snowmobile community and the people who have a level one, it's maybe more like 5% or 10%, right?
yeah.
But it can sometimes it's those who are compelled to take the survey makes the difference, right? And so the follow-up question I had was why, right? And I think there's a lot of whys that happen, and it's a lot of times it's cost, it's time, it's location, or all of the above, all those things together.
Hmm.
And one thing that I really hear consistently from the backcountry community is they'd love to take advantage of some kind of online training tools and stuff like that. And so what's AIARE's stance on online training, and at what level, right? I mean, there's different
Hmm.
levels. There's awareness, there's on the snow, there's level one, there's level two. You get into pro levels. You know, just talk about online learning and what it
Sure.
means and what part of the journey it should be for all of us as snowmobile backcountry users.
Yeah, I mean, online learning is great, and I think that we're all seeing that we're all doing a lot more online learning, online meeting. And so I think it's a real tool that we can probably take more advantage of. Um, the AIARE level one courses are usually 3-day courses. 60% of those are done in the field. So that means
Hmm.
40% is typically done in the classroom. And so, I think coming together as a group and learning is really important. We all have a lot to learn from one another, not
Hmm.
just the instructor maybe that we're seeing through the screen. But we also understand that there's some really incredible tools that have been developed out there over the last handful of years. And AIARE's already using a lot of these in our continuing education courses. And so we have a lot of experience with online learning, and we are doing a lot more with online learning.
Hmm.
And we see, like I was saying earlier, that there's a potential need to do some more online learning, maybe this coming season, depending on the state of COVID and
Yeah.
lockdowns and things like that.
Yeah.
So, what we're doing is for our recreational providers, trying to create modules so that our providers can do totally remote online learning and just the classroom piece together in smaller groups if they need to. So we're right now developing a lot of tools behind the scenes, not only for our recreational side, but also for our professional and instructor training side as well. And I think you'll see, we're also developing a totally online avalanche awareness course that will be interactive.
Hmm.
I think the important thing is outcomes and learning outcomes and understanding if learning outcomes are being met. And
Yeah.
so, checking for understanding and testing for understanding and continuing to revisit that. And I think what's most important at the awareness level is the last thing you want to do is have somebody sit down and take a 2-hour course, not step a foot into the backcountry, and for
Yeah.
that person to think that they know everything that they need to know.
Yeah.
And so, really, all of the tools that we're creating push people to take that next step in their
Yeah.
education. And so, here's some information. Go outside and travel safely with that information that and then when you feel comfortable, here's the next step, here's your next progression. So we're
Yeah.
constantly trying to outline what the next progression in the education
Yeah.
um, course should be.
Yeah. And
But online learning, great. I don't think not you can't learn totally online when you're
absolutely.
talking about backcountry experience. It's really
Yeah.
important to be out there and be hands-on. And local classes are great if you're taking them in your backyard, because then you're going to a place that you can travel safely and you really understand the terrain
Yeah.
and the dangers, and you have a spot that you can go and travel until you're ready to progress and take an AIARE 2 and really
Yeah.
understand the dynamic of a more tricky terrain.
Yeah. Well, and I love to hear that you guys are already deep entrenched in bringing all of that together, right? Especially, and I think in the professional business world, backcountry world, like all of us, we're learning that things can be done differently today than we thought even 3 or 4 months ago could be
That's
possible
right.
and what was relevant, right? And we're running entire companies across the entire world now with remote workers and online
In our
meetings
pajamas.
in our pajamas half the time, right? It's just amazing, right? What's going on. I've personally been working probably for the last 2+ months from my own house, and for
Yep.
T-Mobile right now.
Likewise. Yep.
So that's amazing. So I think, is there anything, what I'd like to do next, but I want to make sure I don't miss anything is to start going through kind of the structure of what we've created with this scholarship program and how it all works. But before I do that, I want to give you an opportunity kind of, is there anything else that you feel like was in your notes that was really important that we might have missed so far?
Well, you had brought up the A3, the American Avalanche
Oh,
Association,
that's
and
right. Yep.
I
Thanks.
just wanted to quickly answer this question because that's confusing.
Yeah.
I know in Canada everything's under one umbrella, and in the United States we have like 10 different organizations. So it's a slightly confusing model. And someday somebody's going to create like a really incredible infographic to explain it all. I know you're out there.
Awesome.
But the AAA or A3, as they are now known, they did
Okay.
a rebranding recently,
Okay.
is a standards organization. And so they don't teach any education for recreational or professional, but rather they set the learning outcomes and the standards to which providers like AIARE on the professional side or other providers out there need to be teaching. And
Okay.
so, we submit our curriculum to them and they look through it and say, yep, you meet all of the standards for a professional certificate
Yeah.
or a recreational certificate.
Yeah.
And so, when you're looking for an avalanche course, you really want to make sure that the provider that you're going with, whether it's an AIARE provider or not, has that A3 certification, because
Yeah.
it means that there's a standards body out there overseeing the work that they're doing, the learning outcomes that they're producing. It's really important.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. It's a great explanation, of the relationship between A3 and AIARE, and then ultimately these educators that we'll talk about in a little bit here with, some of the providers that we're including in our motorized program that we got going on. So, anything else quick? Otherwise, I'm going to dive into the program.
Let's dive in. I'm so excited to talk about it.
Awesome. So here's what's going on, guys. I want to give a little background on like how the heck did this even happen? So what happened was, I've done the show for a little over 2 years now, and about 6 months into the show originally, like I'd partnered with a friend and we had done some live large shirts on his website. Ultimately, his website got shut down and my products kind of went away. And so I had fans of the show kind of bugging me like, John, I'd love to get a Live Large hoodie or a Live Large shirt. I love what you're doing. I believe in what's going on, and I really, appreciate it and want to support it. And I think it's cool. Let me get a shirt, right? And I'm like, I don't have one. I don't have one. And so there's a lot of things that came together. And one thing that was going on, I had that in the back of my mind that I needed to kind of rebrand or relaunch some merchandise. And there's going to be a lot of cool things coming with that. I'll talk about in a minute. And then there was also, just Brian Lundstedt, and actually, it was actually Rob Kincaid had recently just passed away on a Friday. Like he had a horrific accident. He'd passed away. Mr. Brian Lundstedt and I had already done some previous shows together, and Brian and I found ourselves in the same chat flow going on and answering people's questions and trying to understand what people were thinking and feeling during that process. And Brian and I in that chat window started like, maybe we should do a show on this topic and talk about it. And the question was like, hey, how do you end up in the backcountry without your beacon turned on? Like Rob Kincaid had it on him, but it wasn't on for some reason. It wasn't working. And so Brian and I, with no disrespect to Rob and what had happened, just took it on from a standpoint of like, what, it's happened to me. It's happened to Brian. We've all, assumingly, maybe not everybody, but a lot of us have found ourselves in that position where at the end of the day we go to shut our beacon off and we realize it wasn't on all day. And so it's something that can happen. And so Brian and I tackled that. We did that show. It was a great episode. And then at the end of the show, he called me up. He was like, John, I love what you're doing. Keep pushing hard. And by the way, I want to give you 2 level 1 avalanche classes for you to just do whatever you want with. I know you'll do good things with it, right? And I thought about it. Like, I'm like, wow, Brian, that's amazing. Thank you so much. I'll think about it, what I want to do with it, and I'll get back to you. And like within a few days, my brain started spinning, the wheels started spinning, and all of these things came together. I'm like, well, wait a minute. If we sell merchandise and we provide, because I would never have been in the desire with any of the stuff I do to make any money off it. And that's something I want to make sure it's really clear with everybody up front is like this whole show and everything I do, like I still have yet to make $1 off it. Yes, I have some sponsors that partner with us to be able to bring us some cool products and talks and really want to support the program and what we're doing. And I appreciate that. But like I literally have not made one cash dollar out of this entire project, and I don't plan to. It's not my intent. It really is about supporting this community. And so like to bring merchandise to the products to the fans that want it, to have all the profits, 100% of the profits that would normally come back to me as kind of the owner of the Live Large, John Ferrian Live, whole thing that's going on, we decided to reinvest that back into a scholarship. And initially I was like, man, I don't want to have to deal with the cash and the taxes and all this stuff. Like, I just don't like, I don't even want to make money on it. I don't even, my taxes are going to get too complicated. I don't even want to deal with it. Right. But then with Brian donating that, like, it just came together and I was like, sell merchandise, let's come up with a class. Brian's got these classes he's giving away. We'll use it to kind of promote the merchandise and support it. And then all of a sudden, in some point in the conversation, I just started, I think it was Matt Shabam, actually. I had done that episode with Brian and we started talking about it. And actually, right after an episode that I had done, Matt Shabam from what's his is the Mountain Riding Lab is where Matt's from. He reached out to me privately. He was like, John, I can feel like you got something cool going on here. I just want you to know I want to be part of it. And I'm like, okay, Matt, that's awesome. I don't quite know what it is yet, but I'll let you know as soon as I do, right? And so as the structure was coming together, I kind of like, but he's the one in the conversation. He goes like, you should talk to somebody at AIARE, right? Like, and I think AIARE, because he's an AIARE provider, right? And he goes, I think what
He
you're
is,
trying to
yep.
do, and I think AIARE could have a great partnership for you. And I knew Liz already, and so I'd reached out to Liz, and that's ultimately how you and I got connected. And all of this literally in a period of 3-ish weeks, maybe 4 weeks, all came together and we now have this. We have a Live Large merchandise website. For anybody who's watching, you have it out there. It's in the window where you can go down and look through. The website link is in there, and it's just let me see if I have it in front of me here. It's I don't think I have it here in front of me, but it is in the thing. It's basically live large dot item order .com/sale, I think is what it is, right? Is the name of the website. You'll see it in the comments and you can go in there and you can buy shirts. And so, by the way, with the shirts, here's the cool part is, Jessica Carter, who is from Extreme Realities, is a brilliant artist. She's done some wraps for me. All of her wraps are custom, one-off. Like, you call her, you tell her what you want, she designs it for you and then brings you a wrap for your snowmobile. And I have 2 of them on my machines today. And I was so thrilled with her talent. And I approached her, and she's been on my show before too. We've had her on as a guest on the show, and it just clicked in my head. I'm like, Jessica's awesome. I know she already does some great things in her local community. And I asked her, like, Jessica, would you be willing to kind of recreate logos for me? My dream is that every month we have new logos that we're going to drop on this website to keep people engaged and people coming back. We're going to come up with new incredible designs. There's JFL for John Ferrian Live. We're going to have some mountain scenes with Live Large under it. Like, there's a lot of cool things coming. I think we got a new shirt. My newest one I'm going to come up with here, I believe, is going to be and I think I texted it to you, Vickie, it's Live Large University, and then it's established 2020 education department. So it's kind of a college-esque looking type logo with the Live Large University, and that'll be one of the next designs that come out. And I just want a big shout out to Jessica Carter for donating her time. She has literally agreed to donate her time and to give us at least one new design every month to be able to continue
That's amazing.
this journey on. She believes in what we're doing, and awesome partner. And the website that we ended up building together too, again, was another network connection, right? It was Craig Johnson, a friend of mine from a high school friend who coincidentally is also engaged to my wife's cousin. So we're nearly family
Small
almost, but
world.
not quite. But him and his brother back in my hometown of Brainerd, Minnesota, own Great Plains Printing and Graphics. It's a t-shirt printing company. They do all kinds of other graphics and printing stuff. And so they're the ones that are standing up the website for me and printing all the shirts and sending them out. So there's a lot of people that are really close and tight to what we're doing, and they all believe in the same goal. And so you can go on the website, buy a shirt, the profits go to the scholarship. And this is what I'd love to have you touch on for a minute, Vickie, and I'll just take a breath here because I'm going to keep going. It's crazy. Is tell us what you, I'm just going to tell you, I'm so impressed. Like, this to me added a level of legitimacy to this program like I never even dreamed of when I first dreamed this up, is what you guys have done on your website for this Live Large scholarship program that we've done. So there's 2 spots I noticed that we have a call out on your website and also with some dedicated donation links. So why don't you take that part of it and I'll have you talk about it.
So we're basically building this scholarship fund.
Yeah.
And the scholarships are super important for this community. You said, John, when you were talking about the reasons that people don't get avalanche education, and some of the things you said were time and money and location. And so we want to try and remove as many of those barriers as we can. Yep. This is backcountry travel is a really expensive sport to be in. And so we know that it's tough, but and education is another one of those expensive things. I think an average course from one of our AIARE providers is about $500. So, this scholarship is going to feed two sides of the coin. We're trying to solve two problems here. And one is access for recreational users to go and get education. So we're providing scholarships for the recreationalists. And the other is to increase the number of motorized instructors and motorized providers out there. And so the scholarship will go to help train some of these trainers. So, we're really trying to help get that flywheel spinning like we do on the skiing side and get more providers out there, provide more instructors. So there's a few ways that you can contribute to the scholarship. And one is buying merchandise through John's online store. I think 20 proceeds are going directly into the scholarship fund.
Yep.
And you have a special incentive for folks to encourage them to buy. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, let's talk about that. And so like Brian Lundstedt and like all the providers have agreed to it, but I'll touch real quick on what Brian Lundstedt did is those 2 donations of the level 1 classes that he provided to me, we're putting up for just buying merchandise. Like if you can go in there and buy a t-shirt, a hoodie or something, not only are you getting a great product and it's going to go donations right back into AIARE here into the scholarship fund, but it also is going to get you in just as a consumer, as a purchaser, an opportunity to win one of 2 different level 1 avalanche classes through Brian Lundstedt at Tyler's Backcountry Awareness. That'll be for this next winter coming up. The merchandise sales between, anytime now when we first launched this, which was the first week of May, all the way through August 31st is the deadline for this first batch is what I've got. But the cool part I'll touch on real quick is that we have the Mountain Riding Lab with Matt and Will. I've got Ride Rasmussen Style with Brett Rasmussen, Mad Ends and Mountain Skills. So Mountain Skills with Mad Ends. All 4 of those providers that we've talked about, Tyler's Backcountry Awareness is included in that. They have all agreed to supply either a level 1 avalanche class or a riding clinic, right? So Brett Rasmussen, through just to mix it up a little bit and have some fun with it, we're going to give away a free riding clinic day with Brett Rasmussen after the season, once we get into the season further. Again, right now it's those level 1 classes through the end of August, and then we'll go into another session and we'll decide who we're going to go with next year, but we'll rotate those through. And this program is going to go all year round, right? And so ideally we'll have, quarterly giveaways. As you buy more merchandise, you're going to get in on these either riding clinics and or avalanche classes as part of the marketing to promote this. And so big shout out to all of these folks who stepped up and are part of your program, who believe in so much in what we're doing. I mean, Vickie, I'm just in awe of this whole thing because I have the executive director of AIARE on my show tonight. Like that's a huge honor for me alone, right? I mean, that's a big deal for me. And so to have the caliber of the 4 different groups of people that are on this list, if I had to just make a wish list of who I wanted to partner with, like this is the list, right? And so I just
that's why this is so cool.
Yeah, I can't believe the partnership that we've all pulled together here. It's amazing.
Yeah, these 4 folks that you just described, they're the backbone of AIARE's motorized program right now. Yep. And they, as individuals, are incredible. Their businesses are incredible. And the amount that they just continue to reinvest and give back in their community blows my mind. I am so honored to work alongside of these folks. So thank you for that. That's huge. So you buy something and you're entered into a raffle to win a free course. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
And then the other way you can contribute, if people just want to make a donation, and this is another reason it's really cool that you partnered with AIARE as a nonprofit, folks can make tax deductible donations directly to AIARE, and 100% of their donation goes into the scholarship fund. So you can do that on 2 separate pages on our website, which is avtraining.org.
Yep.
And at the top, if you click donate, on that page, we actually have a link at the bottom that is very specific to this Live Large AIARE Motorized Scholarship Fund. So you can click the link. You don't have to type in a note that you want to give to the scholarship.
Yeah.
It automatically knows that you're donating to that scholarship fund. And then if you pop on over to our motorized page, which is under the avalanche courses title there, you can learn about more about our programs, and there's also a donation link there. And know that John and I are working to we leverage this community and really get the community support for their scholarship fund, and work with some bigger sponsors as well. We'd love
Yeah.
to see
Yeah.
some folks from the corporations that are out there who are working in the motorized world step up and support this fund as well.
Yeah, and I would tell you, Vickie, that people are passionate about this. Even from the consumer side, is I've had personal conversations with I think at least three different people who've asked where can I donate, into this there too. So I've shared the link out. I'm trying to connect with some phone calls with some other folks who've already expressed interest. And I want you to know that I put my money where my mouth is, and I will personally be also just putting my own money into that donation fund as well too. I believe in this. This is a big deal for me to be part of this, and it just seems like a no-brainer, right? Like, I don't know why, like, why wouldn't I
That's
support it myself?
amazing.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I
Why would
mean,
I not?
you've done so much for this community, and you just keep finding new ways to give back. So
Yeah,
you're amazing.
yeah. Well, it's what we do. We live large, right? And so, Vickie, you've seen it in writing before, but I'll remind everybody what live large means to me, and what I hope it means to everybody else is, it's live life to the fullest. It's make the most of every day, and it's make a difference in this world. And I believe honestly, that's what we're doing here collectively, is making a difference in this world while trying to live our life to the fullest, right? Like, why not, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so we've got all the folks on there. We got the websites we've talked about, the way the scholarship program works. We talked about Jessica Carter and Craig Johnson both supporting us with the website and the merchandise stuff that's there. I think we've touched it all on the program and what we've got going on. Um, wow, like it's. I know we're already at 56 minutes, and I know you and I on the front side, like, is this really going to take an hour? I'm like, it may not, but here we are, almost an hour into this, and we're just about to
Yeah.
wrap it up. So, any final thoughts, questions, comments from you, Vickie? I'm going to scan through some of the questions here that might be popping up, and I'll see. But why don't you just take it the last few minutes here and see what else you have?
Yeah, what I really want the message going out to this community is that, AIARE is an organization that wants to serve your community, and we love to hear from you. And,
Yeah,
we're working on growing our partnerships formally and informally with individuals and
hmm,
with clubs and other organizations that are out there. So,
yeah,
if you are an individual or part of a club or an organization who'd like to work closer together with AIARE, or bring AIARE into your organization so we
hmm,
understand what your needs are and how we can serve your community, please reach out. We'd love to hear from you. You
yeah,
can go to our website, avtraining.org. There's a contact page on there. Just let us know who you are, what you need. We'd
yeah.
love to connect.
Yeah, yeah. And so as you were talking about that, I just realized like we haven't told the community yet how they can apply for a scholarship, right? And so just want to kind of give everybody a quick shout out on, these scholarships. I think we've covered it, but I want to be very clear about this is we're going to be supporting professional educators who are going in to become motorized educators is going to be part of this, right? As well as
Mm-hmm.
recreationalists, right? But regardless of whether this is going to educators or if it's going to a recreationalist, the criteria is very similar, right? The criteria that we're going to ask everybody to come to us with is how are you how are you all going to make a difference in our community, right? I want to give away an avalanche education scholarship to somebody who is going to reinvest back into their community, right? Are they going to be part of a snowmobile club? Are they part of a riding group? Or they maybe have a social media page where they have the ability to influence other people? When you send me a message about, I want to be involved in this scholarship program, John, I'd love to apply for a scholarship program, that'll come to my website, which I'll be sharing with Vickie. So the way we're going to divvy this out and do these grants is that the executive staff at AIARE, as well as myself and any of the Live Large ambassadors that we'll have in place at that time, will be able to kind of review all of it, give our 2 cents on who we believe is kind of the most, notably worthy of the giving. But it's kind of a no-brainer when you think about the fact that pro-level educators who are coming into this community who want to be able to bring it forward to the motorized community, we want to support that because that's how we get more educators out there. That's how we want to grow this out and get it out there so most people can be impacted, right? And the other thing I'll tell everybody too is I don't have it up quite yet, but I'll be doing it very shortly, probably within the week or less, is I'll have all four of these partners, the Rasmussen, Mad Ends, Mountain Lab, and Tyler's Backcountry Awareness, All of those will be listed on our merchandise website for quick access, quick links, that if anybody just wants to get a hold of these providers, they have quick link access to be able to go into my website, find it. I want to be able to a resource hub for anybody who's looking to get on with their avalanche education. And we'll, of course, include AIARE's website on there as well, too. Make sure that everybody has the connections and the links that they need from my site as well. So we'll tie all that together. And then again, when you apply, you can send your applications for the scholarship into livelargeuniverse@gmail.com. So a little bit different than the university. So the university is the scholarship itself, but holistically for all the things I'm doing with John Ferrian Live and the Live Large stuff going on, I call it Live Large Universe. It's the same title of my YouTube page. So if you go to my YouTube page, it's Live Large Universe. You'll find a lot of the old episodes of John Ferrian Live shows. My email address is the same, livelargeuniverse@gmail.com. You can send in scholarship, applications. Be very clear in the title, though, whether it's a scholarship application or if you have interest in something else. For example, I'm still looking for ambassadors across the country who are willing to help us continue to spread this out and infect their local communities with the same kind of things we're doing here publicly. So,
Yeah, and for folks who are interested in applying for the instructor training program scholarship, I would encourage everybody to go to AIARE's website.
Absolutely.
Again, avtraining.org. And across the top menu bar there's the instructor training program. And take a look at that and familiarize yourself with what that program is and the requirements to enter into that program. So, really looking for people who've been traveling in the backcountry for at least 5 years. In order to take an instructor training course, you have to be familiar with AIARE's REC courses. So if this is something that you're like, ooh, I want to be instructor, go out this winter and start with an AIARE 1.
Yep.
You can be there. So take a look at that page, see what the requirements are, and we're really happy to answer any questions that folks might have about that.
Well, that's amazing, Vickie. I think we've covered everything that I wanted to cover tonight. And we're there. We've finished. We've wrapped this up.
Awesome.
So
We did it.
I know, right? So if you guys haven't watched to this point and you haven't shared yet, I just plead with you, I beg with you, share this out to your personal page, share it with a local friend or somebody. If nothing else, at minimum, help educate the snowmobile community on what AIARE is and who they are and why they're important, why the snowmobile community is important to AIARE and vice versa. Like, it's all very relevant information. Get this message out, get the community out, and get people buying merchandise, get people making donations. Let's see some money start flooding in for this program and help grow our community in a positive, effective way. So God bless everybody. Have a great night. And of course, live large. Thanks, everybody.